Hi, Angela, again.
Hi,
How are you doing? How's your day?
I'm good. My day is good. It's coming towards the end of the day. It's 5:30 here, 5:45 here, but um, the day has gone well. Today has
Good.
been a restful day, so I like weekends that are not busy.
Oh gosh, yeah, tell me about it. So I believe that you've prepared a lovely presentation for us. Um,
Yes,
it
yes.
looks absolutely beautiful, but before we get into it, can you just introduce yourself and tell us what you will talk about?
Okay, cool. So my name is Angela. I am a copywriter. And the niche that I specifically serve in is women's wellness. So
Mhm.
I serve women's wellness coaches, whether they coach on nutrition or fitness or mindset, as long as it's on the topic of women wellness, these are the people that I serve.
Yeah.
And what I do is blogs, emails, and their websites.
Mhm.
So what I've prepared today actually is what I look for when I'm auditing a website. So although it is what I'm specifically doing is auditing the copywriting of the website,
Mhm.
um, websites can't function without SEO.
Mhm.
So SEO is something that I've gotten involved in maybe the last 6 months because it's just like an added advantage. When I'm doing this website copywriting, it's an added advantage that I'm looking through all these other criteria as well.
Mhm.
That would only serve my customer well.
Mhm. Wonderful, amazing. So would you like to talk us through this wonderful presentation?
Okay, sure. So there's 5 things that I typically look for in an audit. There's various ways to solve them. I'll go into a few of the ways to solve them, but there's just 5 things that I typically look for. So the number one thing that a lot of business owners overlook, in my experience, are broken links.
Mhm.
So broken links are when you have linked, you have external or internal links
Mhm.
within your website that take people either outside of your website or to another page on your website. And a lot of times they don't test these links. Say they put it up and 3 months later, 5 months later, the source has actually changed.
Mhm.
They don't go back and check it. And now when someone's reading your blog post and they actually click on the link, they're going nowhere, right? Or it's a 404 message. And this really harms your website in the sense that your website visitors will leave, right? They're like, what is this? It's full of broken links. They're going to leave. And when they leave and people don't stay on your website long enough, that of course affects your SEO, right? Google sees it as, okay, this people are not staying on this website. Something's wrong here.
Mhm.
Um, and also the like the crawler bots, the Google crawler bots as well will pick up when you have links that are broken.
Mhm.
So this is one of the things that I always do. One of the first things that I do actually when I get a website copywriting project is to just check where all the links are. And you'll be surprised, even links to like their social media accounts are
Mhm.
broken. Like it doesn't take you anywhere. And that's like, it's really harmful, right? Because people are like, no, I want to go and check out her Instagram and I can't find her. And yeah, so this is one of the main things that people tend to overlook. And so what I usually advise is every 3 months or so, you're going into your website and just checking these links, especially when you link to other people's information. They might have changed the URL. So you need to be like, you need to stay on top of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think, and obviously you don't want to be doing this every week. I mean, but just like every 3 months, just go in and have like a housekeeping, like are all my links working? Does everything open up the way it should?
Mhm. I think you're absolutely right with that. Businesses do overlook broken links for some
Yes,
reason. I think it might be because they don't understand the purpose of checking
yes,
broken links. So when you don't know something, you kind of overlook it. It's
yes.
the same for our clients, and it's interesting to see that it's the same for your clients. So every
Yes.
niche would have businesses that miss out probably the most vital part.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Agree.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like I said, when it comes to social media, it's like, well, I have a link for Twitter, but you know what? I haven't started my Twitter account. But
Mhm.
then you just shouldn't have the link because this is harmful, right? People are trying to go and find you and you can't be found. So, um, and a lot of times I think it's when they outsource the website development and then they're not as involved in the process. And then they just see a beautiful website up and they're like, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for your work. But, like people have put in all the stuff that you will use in the future. But if you're not actually linking them when it's ready, then it does more harm than good.
I agree 100%.
So the second thing that I always look for is that there is a balance of images together with text. So one of the other things that affects your like can be harmful for your SEO is when you have like big chunks of text throughout your website without any breaks, whether that's images, that can be infographics, even it doesn't need to be like picture everywhere, but just a break in the visual input that someone gets when they get onto your website. And in the niche that I serve, it does get quite educational. And so it does appear as text. Here are the 10 steps that you need to do this. And here are the 10 steps to, when you have a certain health condition. And so it's a lot of information. And especially when it's cases like that, if it's not broken up, once again, it's an overload of information to your visitors, and your visitors leave your site because they're not getting, they can't quickly grasp information. They're like, we're all I always say this, we all skim read on the internet. We might read page to page of a book, of a storybook, but not on the internet. We're not going to read every single piece of text you have there. So a breakup of having a good balance of images within your text is always good. Visually pleasing is good for SEO because people stay on your site longer. They can kind of see what you're trying to explain better.
Absolutely. And what about the ratio of images to text? So
usually what I advise, so when it's a blog post, and with blog post, we know that you should keep your blog post 800 words and more. 1,400 words would be good to aim for. Try and aim for 1,400 words. I know some people sometimes don't like to write as long. However, if you're keeping within those ratios, 800 to 1,400 words, my advice always is to have at least 3 pictures in there. At least 3. They could be differing sizes. Even if one of them is an infographic, like I said, sometimes you just want to put a little poster up that people can save, or people can even use for Pinterest. That is another way to, so you're also having a shareable option there. That's a really good ratio to maintain. So at least 3. So you kind of space it out between your paragraphs. So it doesn't need to be paragraph, picture. That's also a bit, sometimes it gives off a vibe of being a bit not so serious. So like a few paragraphs, another picture. And typically for my clients, what I do is the main picture is in the middle. The picture towards the middle of the article is somewhere just to the side, and then another picture again. So you can play around with the sizes of the picture, but it just helps so much to break up the text that way. So yeah, my advice would be 3 at minimum, and obviously keep them relevant to what you're actually writing about.
Absolutely. I think photos are very, very important, and just any visuals. So I know that a lot of businesses do diagrams or pie charts.
Yes, exactly.
In the wellness niche, you would probably have some sort of statistics from time to time that you
Yes, exactly. So like my clients, especially when they're presenting information, like for example, when you're targeting a certain group, you're targeting women over 40. What is the most difficult thing about losing weight once you hit 40? And then they will already have the graphs, like this is what they get from their market research, right? This is what they get. These are the top 10 reasons why it's so hard for you to lose weight. And then they break it down further into what can you do for each of these reasons. So like 3 tips if you have this condition and 3 tips if you have that condition. So it's really visually pleasing for someone to see. And also, like I said, if someone's just coming in to grab that quick piece of information, it makes it so easy for them. Like they immediately can navigate your site and get the information. And so that really does so much for just making sure the readability is balanced when someone lands on your site.
Yeah, and you mentioned 800 words at least. I want to mention that it depends on the niche, right? So overall, over 800, preferably more, is ideal for Google. But actually, if you've got a quick how-to, for example, how to tie your shoelaces, and you can't get 800 words to explain it, Google values the information over the length of text in that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. So it totally needs to match back to the purpose of this piece of writing that you've put out. So for example, I've had a client who was writing about a particular situation that affects a lot of women, but a lot of them don't know. But she just wanted, because this particular condition is spoken about so much, she just wanted to give really quick information of how to figure out if you fall within this group in the first place. This is it, 10 symptoms. If you've got this 10 symptoms, then there's a 80% chance that you fall within this group. That's all she wanted to say, so that they could then go further and investigate further and read further into their symptoms or whatever. But like, she just wanted you to know, do you or do you not fall within this group? These are the 10 things to look out for.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Okay, so again, coming to readability, one thing that I always maintain with my clients in all their pages, right? So when they're doing a website, it's not just blogs, it's their about page, it's their services page, it's their testimonials page, etc., right? One thing that I always maintain is short paragraphs. And for short paragraphs, the advice is always 3 sentences per paragraph. And then you move on to the next paragraph. I think a lot of us, especially because of our background in school and writing essays, we tend to do really long paragraphs. And that doesn't work on the internet. Like, it's not good. Visually, it's not good. You run into the risk of, again, looking like chunks of text, and nobody wants to read. Like, I can read 3 sentences, I get your main point, move on. Get the main point, move on. So just, it ensures a really good flow as well to your entire point of what you're trying to get at with this blog post or with this website page.
That is a really good point, because I've seen quite a paradigm shift even on LinkedIn with the length of paragraphs. I don't know if you've noticed, but people write a post and it's one-liners for ages, and it works. It works, doesn't it? You read every single one.
Exactly. And again, like I said, we tend to think of like when we're reading a book, a storybook. And this is like, again, it's totally different. It's like a totally different world, right? Like, you've got to know that on the internet, people do. And like I said, when they skim read, it's when those one sentences really jump out. When someone's skim reading and you have a one sentence that totally catches their attention, then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to read this article even better now. I'm going to start from the top all over again and read it properly. And the thing about short paragraphs is when you keep paragraphs short, people get the point faster. But when you've kept it long, sometimes they might not remember what the first sentence was, and they're going to have to reread it. And when people have to reread stuff, it annoys them. And if it annoys them, they're going to leave. So once again, you've lost a visitor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even from our own experience, I'm not sure if it's like that for you, but if I'm searching up a how-to or anything that would serve a purpose to my question, I don't read anything. I just scroll to what I need. So the header.
Exactly.
And that's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, for me, it's the same with, I always look up recipes online. And I am so grateful for the pages that they have their entire long intro, blah, blah, blah. But at the top of the page, it straight away says jump to recipe. And I always click jump to recipe, because I don't need to know how you came up with this recipe. I don't need to know if it's a family recipe. I don't need to know all this. I just need to know, because if I Googled the easiest butter cake, I just need to know the easiest butter cake. So I want to go and check, what are the ingredients? Do I have it? Do I have the amount of time to make it? That's it. I don't need to know where it came from.
Yeah, that is a really great point. Do you guys use jump to call to actions in your writing for wellness?
Yes. So if we are directing, like Because so this is where it's really important to understand your market, right? So if you know that your market is coming in, for example, I'm taking an example of a niche that I serve a lot in, which is the hormonal imbalance. So if you already know that you have a hormone imbalance and you kind of have some background information already on this based on all your research, and then what you want to do is you want to know, based on my hormonal imbalance, am I estrogen dominant, right? So the article will straight away say, if you're estrogen dominant, this is what's relevant to you, jump here. And then you just click and you leave and you go on. But if you're someone who doesn't know what hormonal imbalance even means, then yes, go ahead and read the whole article. So we do that a lot. And we do things like, if you're not sure you're here or you're there, please use this quick quiz that will help you figure it out. So we do that a lot. It of course also helps keep people on the site because they just find more and more interesting stuff to do. And yeah, we do that especially because you need to know some of your market people are coming. Like, for example, I don't have a background in women's wellness, but because of all the stuff that I've gone through myself, I've learned quite a lot about it. And which is why I chose to specialize in it. So someone who's educating me on hormonal imbalance, you know, the first 5 things you want to educate me on, I already know it. I don't need to hear it from you because I've done extensive research already for myself. And for example, I maybe landed on your site just to know what are the supplements you recommend. What are the specific vegetables you recommend? Do you recommend a gluten-free diet? You know, I have a very specific, much more detailed search intent when I land on your site, right? So you need to cater to people like this who can also jump, and who are slightly advanced. And then you've got to cater to people. And I always tell this to my business owners, when you write, you have to always cater to people who it's the first time they're hearing this piece of information. So it's very important that you cater to them. Like, for example, then you go on and on with estrogen dominance, right? And someone doesn't even know if they are. And so you need to have something within your article that says, if you suspect you might be estrogen dominant, here is a quiz that can help you. Here are some symptoms that you can go through. Here's a checklist that will help you figure out whether you're estrogen or progesterone dominant, right? So you've got to, and this is where a lot of I think people, website owners who are in the coaching spectrum especially, I think they tend to forget that because they assume everyone comes with a certain amount of knowledge already, and that's not always true. That's really not always true.
Yeah, it's very important to cater to all audiences, isn't it? You don't know who will land on your site, and that is a very good point that everyone should remember. I think quick links at the beginning of the paragraph. Because I'm thinking we don't work with any wellness businesses. We work with large corporations. However, it would still be useful if we're writing a how-to, even for SEO purposes, to have quick links, because the sole purpose of writing is to be useful to your reader.
Exactly. And when you're catering to all the audience, once again, people firstly see you as authority because I can see you are helping me from ground zero up to wherever it is I want to be, but you're there to help me, right? So you support my journey from a total newbie to someone who is pretty educated and to someone who's really educated and knows what the next step is. So it also helps with building your authority online.
Yeah, and as you would know, and any SEO specialist would know, building authority is incredibly important.
Yes.
Great.
So the next one, which is where we talked about keywords. So I didn't specifically want to talk about all the other cliche stuff that we hear about keywords, right? But I did want to say that one of the important things that I always advise my clients, and because when I look at their website, I can see that they're actually not using keywords in their headlines. They have headlines, it's very generic stuff. It's not keywords. So one of the things that I highlight is using keywords in your headlines is just an added tool to diversify the keywords that you want to rank for. You know, it's never advisable to just want to rank for one keyword. or 2 keywords, right? When you understand the search intent, why someone's coming on your website, and that's when I mentioned, like, for example, things like someone who's a total newbie, someone who knows a lot, someone who knows a little bit. When you know the search intent of all these people, then you will realize actually your keywords need to be really, really expanded, and you need to use them to your advantage wherever you can, like wherever you can, but not in a way that's not strategic. So that's one thing that's very important. Like, you don't just repeat it all through your site in a way that people can tell when you're just repeating the same thing over and over again, right? People are reading this, they can tell. And so it's very important to then diversify it based on the users that are landing on your website. Whether they're new people, whether they're returning people, what is it that would interest them? So the use of short tail keywords, long tail keywords, etc. But utilize them as well in your headlines, not just your text. I think that helps a lot with your searchability for someone to find you when they're searching for something. When a user types in a Google search text, that helps as well with your visibility and how they find you.
Absolutely. And can you talk us through your keyword research process in summary?
Right. So I use a keyword tool that's called Keyword Sheeter, as in SHEETER, Sheeter, not cheater. It sounds so much like cheater. It's so hard for me to say it without making it sound like cheater. No, it's Keyword Sheeter. And usually what I do for my clients, what I do is I do a comparison with their competitors. So I do ask them, who are your competitors? Like, who is really in your niche? And so I do a keyword comparison with them. A lot of times I use WooRank as well. And to just let them know where they're, and WooRank also helps for things like when your links are broken and stuff. They also do highlight certain things. So it's like an all-in-one thing. It does help as well. And when I do a comparison, I would tell them, like, these are the keywords that your competitors ranking for. And if it's, yes, you might think they're your competitor, but when you look at the keywords that they're ranking for, it's not relevant to you. And so you need to change it. Like, I know they're in there, especially, like, for example, when I did a work for a client who was she was a mindset coach for women entrepreneurs. And when she gave me her competitor was ranking for neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And although my client is also trained in NLP, but that's not her main selling point. Her main selling point was much more on hypnosis. It was much more on rewiring your beliefs. And so I told her, okay, so the NLP thing, you've got to decide whether you want to let it go or not, because your competitor is ranking for that, yes. But is this something you want to rank for? Because you hardly talk about it. You actually don't talk about it at all in your social media where you're most active. So you need to match these things up, because you can't be seen as someone on your website and someone totally different on your social media. This is another thing I talk about a lot. Like, it's got to match, right? So this has got to do with the user experience. It's got to match. Otherwise, the trust is not there. There's a huge disconnect. Like, why does she sound different on her website? And another client that I had, we wanted to change her tagline of what she was. And she's a little bit more in the medical field, so she's like a physical therapist. And when we changed her tagline, she actually now is the first person that comes up with that tagline. And so that's really great. And I told her, so now the work starts where on social media, you've got to be pushing this. You've got to make a name for yourself with this tagline, so that even if someone didn't feel very connected to you, but they go and research that tagline. She's like a chronic pain relief coach, but we gave it a better name. And I was like, so when someone types in this one, you still show up. It just feeds their trust factor that actually she is the best, right? Like, if they were going to look for someone else in their area, for example, it's still you that shows up first. And that's really, really good, right? Finding a niche that way that makes it so super useful, that people see, they identify you as this person already. And it builds the trust, it builds the likability, it builds the authority. All that just comes hand in hand. So that's what I think about keywords. It's it's important to do the comparison. It's sometimes people are like, oh, whatever my competitor ranks for, I don't care. But you need to know if you're really targeting the same audience. So like with this client, although she thought this was a competitor, but she kind of was in a different area. So then you need to retweak your strategy.
That's a great point, because people usually try to cover all areas because they want to be everywhere and they want to be page one for everything. But finding almost a niche within your niche is even more effective, isn't it?
Exactly. And again, when you're talking about these things, and because you're a lot more visible, a lot of people are a lot more visible on social media, right? Because social media lets you do short form video, etc., etc. You're seeing your audience a lot more on social media. When they associate these words with you, it is super helpful later on when they go into a Google search and type in those same words. It's like I said, it's repeating what they already know, that you are the best and you are the authority and that you would be the right choice for them. And we also strategize a way how these keywords are then used in their blog post. How these keywords are used, for example, if they have, a lot of them have podcasts, and on their website, it just shows this tiny snippet of your podcast notes, and then people move on to listen to your podcast. Same thing, keywords where it makes sense in your podcast notes as well. So I need to put in the disclaimer of where it makes sense, because I do notice people just repeating the same line over and over and over again. And that doesn't look like it has strategy to it. It really looks like you're just copy pasting everything. You're not personalizing stuff. It doesn't look well. I mean, it doesn't sit well as well.
And actually recently there's been a Google update that stated that you don't actually need to worry about keyword density as much. So this is more SEO, but it used to be 3% density in any text. And people used to, stuff keywords and use black hat techniques. Even 3% is plenty, actually, now that I think about it.
Yes.
That's changed now to cater to your audience. So you don't have to please the machine. You need to make the text actually interesting.
Exactly. And there definitely is a huge shift towards the actual content of your website, right? This is why it's so important, the actual content of your website, and not just, like you said, like just dumping all your keywords and assuming you're going to rank for it. And you probably would rank for it in the olden days when the algorithm was just picking up on keywords. But if people are going to come to your site and none of the information you're sharing has any kind of logical flow to it, they're going to leave your site. Eventually the algorithm is also going to pick it up that no one's staying on this site. It's probably not a very good site in the first place.
Exactly. And the one thing that still remains is keywords in your headline. So that has always been recommended so people can find you. So that is the hook to get them in.
Yes.
But to get them to stay, you have to produce very high quality content, don't you?
Correct. And also because you know how like Google now does, when you type in a search, they give you the snippet information. If you're very specific in your search, they automatically give you the snippet information, right? And to rank for that, you need to have information. Your content needs to be as specific to what the person was typing in, because then it comes up as the most relevant information based on what you typed in. So for example, if you're typing in, how much does a copywriter charge per hour, right? This is very specific, like you went like per hour rate. So you're going to get all these little snippets of Google gathering data to say, yeah, well, they charge between this per hour. So knowing how you tailor your content to appear this way, to appear the most useful, that's so important compared to just, keywords everywhere and information that's not structured. So another thing that we do with my clients, again, like I said, because it's not just blogs, right? It's the entire website, your about page, your testimonial, your services, etc. Is making sure that there is a flow to it, and then making sure the keywords appear accordingly in all those pages. And like I said, it can be different keywords. It doesn't need to be the same thing repeated. It can be different things based on like the user intent, right? Like what would the search intent be in the first place?
Absolutely.
And so this is like a pet peeve of mine, right? I mean, and again, if you just think about it, again, Google's moving a lot more towards what do the users even want? And I can assure you there's no user that wants ads popping up every 20 seconds when they're on an article. I know it's a way to monetize. I understand that. But what I'm saying is it can do more harm when you have these pop-up ads. And I've been on websites, I think these were some travel websites. I've been on websites where it's almost impossible to find the X button to close the ad. I'm like, I mean, good job hiding it, but seriously.
That is way too sneaky, actually. I was on a website like that a couple of days ago. It's probably the most irritating thing about the internet.
Exactly. And I'm like, what? People are gonna leave. If I can't, again, we all skim read on the internet. If I can't X an advertisement within 2 seconds, if I can't find the X button, I'm gonna be really pissed off with your website. I'm gonna leave. I'm like, forget it, this website. And I've done that again similarly when I'm looking for, okay, this was like a website I was looking for children activities. Like I was looking for printouts to print for my kids during the lockdown so that I would have activities for them to do at home. And there were numerous ads here and I couldn't X them. I could see the PDF document at the back there that I just wanted to get to, but this ad kept
Try to
popping
look
online.
at that.
Forget it. You're just not the website for me.
Yeah.
I'm moving on. Right. So I understand the monetization part of it. It doesn't do you any favors in keeping you visible, in helping your SEO. And the thing that I wanted to say about sidebars is this is very, from my experience, this is very underutilized. And my advice about utilizing your sidebars is again to make your website sticky, so get people to spend time there. And your sidebars is where you should be putting your lead magnets, your freebie stuff. Your sidebars should also be the place, like we talked about, when you're serving a user at every stage. Your sidebar should be the place to say, if you're a beginner, start here. If you're slightly advanced, move here. So use your sidebars for that reason as well, so that I can see that you're straight away catering and I can straight away go like, okay, this is about meal planning. If you want to know what meals support your hormones, go here. So maybe today I'm not interested in symptoms. I'm not interested in whatever exercise I should be doing. You know what? I'm done. I'm just looking for meal plans. I can already find it in your sidebar. So I feel like sidebars are really, once again, underutilized because this can be like a gold mine for just addressing all types of users and pointing them straight away in the direction that they need to go. And so they can quickly assess that your website is so useful for various things that I'm looking for, right? At different stages that I could be in. So the pop-up ads are annoying. The sidebars are underutilized. So those are two things in one point that I wanted to make.
That, I mean, pop-up ads are very irritating. That is 100% true. And sidebars, that is a very interesting thought, because what you're saying is that you have to make it incredibly user-friendly for any reader. And I think businesses do forget that. So even really large corporations that do copywriting, they don't take that extra step to make it useful for you. They just throw out a chunk of text, rank for this keyword, don't have that many headings and just let it be. But you're kind of feeding it to people on a golden plate and making it so incredible for them, the whole blog experience.
Yes. So instead of me going to a website, looking at all the various topics that you would cover, it would be so useful if on the sidebar, you just know the main things that people would be looking for. And if it's something, because the especially like in my niche, as much as they would coach you about your hormonal imbalance and how to get it balanced, their work involves so many things. Their work involves the fitness perspective. Their work involves the meal perspective. Their work involves the supplement perspective. All these various things can easily go into the sidebar. in terms of, if you want to get started on supplements, look here. If you want an easy 7-day meal plan, look here. And so someone who's just starting on this journey, those things might be useful. They might like be curious about it. They might not be ready to hire you as a coach, but when they see, as you're repeating information to them, as they're finding you useful, like it only builds your authority, it builds the likability, it builds the trust.
Fantastic. Great point. I'm learning so much from this. Actually, it's incredible.
I'm so glad.
Is there another one after this, or is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
This was amazing. Don't worry, I'll crop things out, like I said. This has been super insightful. I manage the content SEO. I don't produce the content myself.
Yes.
But things like sidebars and quick links at the top guiding you to where you want to be, and separating the level of reader to match their intent is something that I need to think about in our content strategy. So this is highly, highly useful. But before we wrap it up, can you talk us through some of the challenges? Because maybe some people aren't so familiar with the wellness niche. So it would be quite interesting to hear.
So the challenges that I see in the wellness niche is very much, once again, a lot of people find it difficult to cater to every stage of the user journey. The other problem that we run into, which I think it depends, if you're within the educational niche, you would experience this as well, is the amount of information that you share. So a lot of times I've gone to some of my clients to tell them this blog post is actually 2 blog posts, it's not 1, because you've put in so much of information that it can be an overload. And I wouldn't remember the information. As a reader, I wouldn't remember. Like if I'm trying to come here and figure out just 3 tips, I can't figure it out, because you've given me 3 tips, you've given me another 3 tips if things don't work out, you've given me 3 tips if I'm above 40, and you've given me 3 tips if I'm above 50, and like, okay. Right? So a lot of times the content is fantastic. There is a need to simplify it. There is a need to simplify it. And the third challenge actually would just be, I think a lot of them don't have a keyword strategy. They do have, I mean, market research is part of copywriting. It's something that we do, and they do know their market well, and they kind of just profile their market that way and choose keywords from that. But like I said, someone could be putting in a really specific search, and when people are really specific in their search, that means they're a lot more ready to buy from you because they pretty much passed all that convincing stage, right? They're ready to buy for you. And I think at that point, when you don't have a keyword strategy, you're missing out on a big market there. Yeah, so that would be some of the challenges that I see with websites. And a few of the other things that I always talk about on my Instagram is how when you write very much on a features basis. You write very much about how your program is tailored, what you offer, how many weeks is it, how many calls do they get, You don't talk about what happens with them, right? Like, so you don't speak about it. This whole thing, it's like a pet peeve within the copywriting world. Like, people don't talk about the transformation enough. So that's one of the challenges as well. Like, especially I understand it with large corporations, but again, if you write from the perspective of what does the user get, that makes your content a lot more readable, as opposed to just having information that they're looking for. It differs niche by niche, right? So obviously, if you're a travel website, you don't need to tell me what I get. I just want to know, what's the best time to travel? How much money do I need to budget for this? Like, what's the weather? Stuff like that. So that's very information intensive, which is fine. But in my niche and a lot of other niches, which are like coaching and service-based, and you need to talk about the transformation. So that's one of the challenges that people very easily forget.
Absolutely. And Angela, how long have you been doing this for?
So I've been copywriting for a year now. I chose my niche. Initially, my niche was just about what I do, which is website blogs and emails. And then I chose to niche down further to only serve those in the women's wellness industry, because, like I said, it's something that I experienced myself. I know a lot of stuff already myself. So a lot of times when they're explaining things to me, I'm actually the market research. I am the target market. So I can already speak to the feelings of what you're feeling and the frustrations and trying stuff and failing stuff. And, I already know all this stuff. So it helps in that sense. Like, I don't need a lot of information. They don't need to break down a lot of things for me. Like, oh, Angela, this is why people feel this. You don't need to break it down. I know it. I'm in it, right? So that's why I chose, because I feel like it serves them really well. And it's something that I am still passionate about. So I'm still learning. So I'm happy to learn.
Yeah, aren't we all? I mean, this field that we're in, you just grow continuously. There is no limit, which is why it's so beautiful, isn't it? And one last thing, what would you recommend to anyone starting out as a copywriter? Because you've got heaps of experience already after 1 year. So someone who's just decided that they're going to be a copywriter.
I would say there comes a point when you've got to stop learning. And I'm speaking from experience. There comes a point when you've got to stop learning and just start doing. Because I think sometimes you hide behind the, I need to know more, I need to know more, I need to know more. But you know what? No one says that you can't continue learning while you're still doing. Like, that shouldn't be the thing that holds you back, right? So just take that step forward. Once you've learned enough, take that step forward and continue your learning journey. Like, even now, I'm still in 2 email marketing courses, although I've already done email marketing. But like, as I move on and I get to know more people, I come across other copywriting teachers that I like and that I resonate with. And so I sign up for their program because it's definitely going to be something different, right? So the continuous learning can happen, but it shouldn't stop you from actually putting yourself out there and doing. So that would be my advice, actually. Like, don't let that hold you back, thinking that you need to cover all bases. Like, do some that what you're actually doing. And the thing about copywriting is a lot of it is actually writing. So if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to have that continuous feedback where you're writing and you're practicing and you're doing all this stuff, right? Like, because you kind of hide behind the whole, I need to know more, I need another certification, I need to pass this. There comes a point where you've got to put a brake on and just do and learn together. It can go parallel.
Exactly. Figure it out as you go. Yeah, I live by that as well. I do agree. I'm still learning.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And Angela, thank you so much again. These 5 pointers were amazing. You were wonderful to speak to. It's lovely to meet you.
You too.
I'm really happy that we did. And I see that you've left your Instagram at below.
Yes.
So if anyone wants to follow Angela, she's fantastic. So follow her on Instagram. I already do. And yeah, have a wonderful evening, and I hope that we can catch up again at some point.
Definitely. You have a wonderful day too.
You too.